Do you find yourself fighting for your students' attention a lot, trying to be more interesting than TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, to name a few? Well, if your answer is yes, welcome aboard. We are all in the same boat or was on the same boat at some point. Hi, my name is Anisha, and today I will be talking about gamification, particularly when teaching English literature in a secondary school from a teacher trainee's perspective. Just a little bit about me. I am a fourth year student from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. As you can see, that's me on the right. For my fourth year, I had the opportunity to teach at an international school for 2 terms. That is where I developed my love for gamification. What can you expect from this presentation? First, we'll be talking about gamification, specifically what it is, how does it relate to education, particularly in English literature. Then we'll move on to the methodology of the study, followed by the results and finding, and ending it with a conclusion. Now that we have gotten that out of the way, you are probably wondering, what is gamification anyways? Well, according to Su and Cheng, gamification is the application of game design elements and game mechanics in non-game contexts to engage people and solve problems. Sounds a bit confusing, but let me bring your focus to these keywords: game design elements and game mechanics. In other words, gamification has aspects of games such as ranking users, levels, badges, and points being used in a learning context. Nonetheless, gamification shouldn't be taken as if it is some sort of means in which you can turn a lesson a lot more interesting as it is seen as a game. After all, the focus is still on learning that is achieved and the challenges that can push the students to greater heights through the game rather than the game itself. They help learners to relate to others naturally and effectively and strengthen self-confidence and stimulate creative freedom in a relaxed and friendly environment. Gamification is suitable to be used in a literature classroom as it helps to develop students' independent learning style, critical thinking, and their awareness when dealing with literary texts. Oftentimes than not, there are a lot of misconceptions about gamification. I've heard them multiple times as well. Some of it, or the most common one that I've heard, is about how gamification is only suitable for younger students rather than older students. However, that's not necessarily the case. A gamification design model by Huang and Hugh was adopted to improve the understanding of different ways in which benefits of gamification can be maximized in the classroom, regardless of the student's age. This model proposed 5 crucial motivating elements in gamification design. The 5 elements are goal, access, feedback, challenge, and collaboration. A goal can be either a long or short term thing. In a gamified setting, game design elements can be used to set up proximal and reasonable goals. So, for example, let's say a teacher may use participation based badges such as early bird to motivate learners to complete the pre-class activities before a specified deadline or a specific deadline. Second, access means offering learners the autonomy to choose suitable challenges for themselves. The third aspect is pretty self-explanatory: feedback. Feedback means providing instant or summative feedback to learners so that they know their own progress and achievements, and the progress and achievements of their peers as well. Feedback enables learners to engage in self-evaluation and self-correction. So the fourth aspect, which is challenge, it means providing opportunities for learners to compete with themselves or their peers. The final aspect, which is collaboration, means providing chances for learners to work together to achieve a shared goal or interact with each other. For example, providing feedback in the comment section or replying their work through online forums. So these are some of the things that they can do through collaboration. Well, we know that it can be beneficial for students. We know that there are 5 aspects, as you can see here, in which we can look at to maximize these benefits. But why aren't teachers actively using this approach in their classroom? Despite an increasing research on gamification, one key driver on gamification implementation in the classroom, the teacher, remains nearly neglected in gamification research, with few research focused on them. This is where I come in. It's evident that not only is the teacher's point of view rarely discussed, let alone a teacher trainee's point of view. Hence, the objective of the study is to investigate a teacher trainee's use of gamification in an English literature classroom. Accordingly, 2 research questions is formulated. The first one is, what is the best approach to take in order to encourage active learning in the English language classroom? And the second one is, which software can a teacher trainee use in an English literature classroom to gamify lessons? So how do we do it? Well, this study was conducted with a total of 16 students. They are within the age range of 11 years old to 12 years old, studying English literature in a secondary school. Taking into consideration that the participants involved has not experienced the use of games in a literature classroom, so through a questionnaire, data was gathered on the best approach that can be taken to encourage active learning in the classroom. The questionnaire was administered through PEDAC because it is very suitable, very much suitable for their age, and they're very familiar with it at the beginning of the second term of the academic year. So the questionnaire included 3 items with the aim of investigating students' likes, dislikes, preferred method of learning, and areas of interest. 2 items were an open-ended question, whereas the last item was a closed-ended question. The research was conducted within 6 weeks based on the data collected from the questionnaire. The trainee teacher made decisions on the most suitable software to adopt for the lesson. Now, let's look into the results from the questionnaire, shall we? Well, when students were asked if they felt motivated learning English literature, more than 80% of them shared that they don't feel motivated learning it actually. When probed further through informal conversations, students shared on what they would like to see during the lesson and suggested some things the trainee teacher could do. Surprisingly, 87.5% of the students showed interest in games. Despite the question being open-ended, 14 out of 16 of them wanted more games to be incorporated. Mind you, these are basically written by the students themselves, as it is not an option that is provided, and 14 out of them specifically said games. Hence why it is categorized as such. It seems like it was an option, but it is not an option. These are the things that they suggested themselves. Whereas 1% said that they would love to watch videos and movies, and the other student said that they prefer doing quizzes. Given that the result shows that there is a need for a change of method from the conventional method that is used previously, as you can see, since majority of them said that they are not motivated to participate in the class, the trainee teacher decided to, or the best approach in this situation is to incorporate gamification into the lesson, as I mentioned earlier, that 93.75% of the students showed interest in it. So gamification was chosen. Oh, sorry. I mean, 87.5% of the students showed interest in it. My bad. Gamification was chosen because it includes things like quizzes, role playing, and point systems, which the students showed or expressed interest in it. With that in mind, the teacher trainee used the gamification design model as a basis to ensure that the students will be more motivated to participate actively during the lesson. In order to choose the best software to be used during the lesson, the teacher trainee needed to ensure that all 5 aspects in the gamification design model is fulfilled. The 5 aspects are goal, feedback, challenge, access, and collaboration. It's not really necessary to have all 5 aspects, but it is definitely highly encouraged. With that in mind, the teacher trainee decided to use a software called Classcraft. So Classcraft is a built-in system with surprisingly all 5 aspects of the gamification model, design model, and the best thing is that it requires little to no additional preparation other than the material set for each lesson. So it was just a coincidence that Classcraft had all 5 aspects of it. So let me show you an example of how Classcraft looks like as a teacher. So this is the game dashboard. We have the student's name on the left and their points that they have collected because of the amount of work that they have done and so on. So students will have a shared goal of gaining points and leveling up when completing their task and making sure their peers are also following the lessons. So because they will be able to choose characters, that's the fun part about Classcraft that many students enjoy, is that they get to choose their own characters, the powers that the character would have, and based on the points, they get to buy shields, they get to buy more power, that would bring benefit when they are faced with a challenge or a task at hand. Given that the subject being taught is English literature, Classcraft also allows teachers to create scenarios based on the literature focused in that year. For example, the participants were learning a play called A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. The play is about dreams, romance, and comedy. Classcraft was a very suitable platform in that sense, as a teacher could design stories around the play using elements that is ever ready on the website. As the students are immersed in the game, it gives them a more meaningful reason to learn the content and compared to before where they sat and listened a lot. Students are put in the middle of the whole literary process, making them creators rather than passive containers of theories. Um, Besides that, the thing that was very beneficial is that they get to see their progress along the way. As you can see here, this is a quest map, and they get to see, okay, for example, a unit or a week, what do they need to achieve, and if they need extra helping hands, or they just need extra practice and so on. I get to add those additional links for them before they proceed to the next part, which is really great about Classcraft. And all this while related to the play that we are doing as well. Besides that, the teacher trainee is also able to control the amount of points given for each task. Not only that, she'll be able to verify the quality and the completion of work at each step, which is reflected in the progress bar. Students were also a lot more determined to complete the task, as you can see, given how high their points are. They were a lot more accountable for their peers because they were all placed in groups, and they had to make sure that all their peers or their group members at least was on par with them or doing just as well, so that they don't lose points or they don't have to face consequences along with their team members. So students made an effort to explain concepts and give constructive feedback to their peers in order to maintain their level. the gamification approach changes the traditional way of studying literature into a memorable individual and collective experience that has since paved the way to a lasting positive attitude towards reading literature. By the end of the sixth week, another questionnaire was sent out to the student. This questionnaire only contained one item, so to identify whether the students felt motivated during the lesson. And what about the lesson that motivated them? All the students agreed that they felt a lot more motivated with the lesson. When asked which part motivated them, majority of the students pointed out that the aspects of gamification, such as collaboration, challenge, and access, even. But it is too short of a time to make a conclusion, but it is something we can definitely start with or ponder upon. Knowing what we know so far, it sounds really promising, and the students are enjoying the content. Not only that, the student teacher also enjoyed designing the content. However, with all of this in place, the study does have several limitations. Gamification is a very new concept. So the first identifiable limitation is the lack of many supporting literature of the results found, other than the few identified studies as listed here. The other studies are from the student rather than the teacher's perspective. It is hard to conceptualize the achievement of the research regarding either the supports or critics. Yeah, so therefore it is challenging to validate the realized findings and recommend the incorporation of game elements in online learning. The other limitation is the use of a small sample size. For this study, for example, the sample was only 16 participants, which is really small, really small in a quantitative research because it limits the generalization of their findings. Um, Finally, the study is also based on results from a very specific point in time, which challenges the attempts to predict the outcome of gamification at its later stage in online learning. So, the limitations above suggest further investigations on the issue. Precisely, the lack of studies highlights that more research should be conducted to offer the foundation of literature on the subject. Further research should use a larger sample size that is a good representation of teachers for effective generalization. Um, Moreover, a longitudinal approach should be used as well in a future research to obtain the long-term effects of gamification on online learning. I think that would be a very good area to touch upon. But despite the limitations, the study used is valid and reliable data collection tool, which is the questionnaire, which strengthens its results. So the present analysis clearly shows that students are really enthusiastic about the use of games in literature classes, even if they have not experienced it prior to this. The fact that students appreciate these activities proves that they are aware of their educational value, considering them meaningful, challenging, and fun. It is worth mentioning that students perceive games as a means of developing and consolidating their knowledge of literature in a very pleasant environment. Moreover, games is also a good way to foster interest in reading, not only in classroom but outside of classroom as well, which shows that gamification may contribute to long-lasting habits as, again, the point system really motivates them more than anything else, actually. It is definitely recommended for teachers to try this out with their students, as it may leave a lasting impact um, to your students as well. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask me. Thank you.